Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to I Am Unchained. I have my beautiful wife with me today, Staci.
Hello.
Talking a little bit about 2023, 2024. What we did, what we've done, what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for always keeping me motivated to do these.
You're
I
welcome.
think without you, I wouldn't do them. Even today, I was like, I got to be in a certain mind frame to do it. You know what I mean? But,
for sure.
Yeah. So New Year's Eve, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Hope everybody found the New Year well. The socially accepted New Year, yeah. I guess let's start with this. What's something that you're taking away from 2023? What's your biggest takeaway? If you had to narrow it down to one broad thing.
Oh man, one thing. I think my biggest takeaway from 2023 is that I'm always taken care of.
Yeah, you were just talking about that. Elaborate a little bit.
Even like in the midst of feeling like I don't have enough money for this and that, especially around, the summer months and the holidays when you're just, things are shoved in your face constantly, like, yo, you need to do this, you need to do that. And you're like looking at your bank account like, how do I make this happen?
Yeah.
So just really kind of dialing in what you want to spend your money on and your time on. I was able to do everything that I needed to do.
Yeah.
I might not have had the means to do everything I wanted to do, but everything that was needed was taken care of.
It's always taken care of. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where I think we've had this conversation where all of a sudden, like, you live within your means, right? And then all of a sudden something comes about, say something breaks, right? Even though you live within your means, like you go paycheck to paycheck, when that something breaks, somehow that money's always there.
Yeah.
And it always works out. So like kind of the same
very much
theory.
So. Yeah, those two instances that really stick out for us was when the dishwasher went down and the garage door broke, all within a week span.
That was rough.
So we were looking at like $1,000.
Yeah.
But luckily you were able to fix the dishwasher yourself, which saved half of that. So that was really cool. Really cool to experience now that you can actually get through that situation and then look at it and be like, wow. Because in that moment, it felt daunting. Frustrating and daunting and like, where are we going to come up with that money? Yeah. And then it was okay.
It's always there and it always gets replenished too. It's one thing, you can always make more money, Yeah. But, okay, so that's good. What were you saying?
I was going to say, what was your biggest takeaway?
Oh, my biggest takeaway? Probably awareness. And I keep going back to that and I keep saying it over and over again. But that's the one thing that I think has like literally gotten me through the last year to this point. Because without that, I don't think I'd be even close to where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just learning, like everybody knows it, everybody hears it, but like learning how to apply it and actually use it through your daily life. I think that's where it helped me the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think awareness is really the big umbrella above all the things.
It is.
Right?
Yeah. Because I even today, like, so we went and brought Kinsley to Grandma and Grandpa, and we're gonna have a New Year's night by ourselves. And we forgot the booster seat, and we're halfway there, and we had to turn around and come back. And it's irritating, right? Like the irritants are still there.
Yeah.
It's just like things make you mad, things make you sad, things make you irritated. But being aware of that, right? So like
you can
immediately,
talk yourself off the ledge.
Exactly. Immediately, I was like pissed.
Yeah. Human emotion, right?
Right. But acknowledging the fact, like, there's nothing you can do, And I also don't want to ruin the day of everybody in this car right now, because I know that my attitude can easily do that to anybody I'm around. It's that intense sometimes. So just being able to like acknowledge like, hey, Matt, you're pissed, but these are your options, right? Like you can either be pissed or not be pissed. Like those are your two, and what changes? Pretty much the rest of your day changes depending on that question right there. Do I want to be pissed about this, or do I just want to be pissed about it for a second and let it go?
Yeah.
Right? Because I could easily, like before, I've always done that where like something can just ruin my whole day.
Totally.
And it's just one thing, right? So I think like that was a good thing that happened. I mean, it sucked that it happened today, but it was a good example of how I've been like putting that awareness to use and like actually navigating through my life that way.
Yeah.
You know,
the realization of that you have a choice in every circumstance and situation. You have this choice to let the wave crash over you and take you under, or ride the wave, you know, take the higher road.
For sure.
Yeah. Not to say that letting it overcome you is a bad thing. Sometimes we do have to sit in that emotion. But having the awareness and realizing the choice to...
Right. And there's like... I think there's a difference between saying, I'm not going to let this irritate me, like completely just pushing it off and not dealing with it, is different than acknowledging that I am irritated, but how I go about being irritated is completely different.
Yeah.
Right? So like, am I still irritated that it wasted an hour of my day? Yeah, it's an hour I won't get back. Right? But what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah. I love that you said that I am, because that's usually in my mindset, I use that I am so much. Like I am pissed or frustrated. No, I am not that emotion. I'm feeling that emotion. And there's such a huge difference when you can actually differentiate the I am feeling or the I am this, where you're like claiming like I am this and that's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
Or I'm feeling this emotion. What are my options to not feel this emotion?
Right.
And that's a huge power, I think.
Yeah.
That we all have the ability to do.
Yeah.
So when you claim that I am, that's grounding yourself in that.
You're labeling yourself as that.
Yeah.
Which is the exact opposite of what we should be doing.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I've been talking about this whole time. I think I've said it on a podcast before, or one of my solo ones. I am not my anger. I am not my sadness. I am not these things. Those things just are on their own.
Yeah.
Right. But I am not that.
Yeah. You know? And that goes into a lot of, I forget who I was just talking. Oh, Jessica. I was just talking to Jessica about this because she's going through some crazy stuff with her neighbors. And I was like, be careful with your mind right now. Think about what you do want to come out of this instead of focusing on what you don't want, because that's the universe is constantly wanting to give us what we put focus on. So if we're always focusing on what we don't want, the universe is just going to keep giving us things that we don't want, that show us what we don't want.
You get what you think about, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. And so just to be mindful and to think about the things that we do want, like I am strong. I am not weak, you know? So instead of focusing on not being weak, focus on being strong.
Exactly. Always focus on the positive opposite, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because those I am statements, that's law of attraction, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. What's one thing negative about this year? Like, let's just put it out, whatever was negative this year, we'll leave it where it's at right now. But there's got to be something that happened that changed the course of what you're doing, that maybe like put a halt to something or just deterred you from your goal. What's one thing that you can pinpoint for 2023 that did that? And the outcome could be, you know, negative, neutral, positive, whatever. But what's one thing that you have to say?
The biggest thing this year that changed me, like drastically changed me, was the what's the word I want to use? The crash and burn, I guess, if you will, of Wild Women Revival. That
was this year.
That was, yeah. That was a huge pivotal moment for me. I had all my hopes, dreams put into this business and friendship, and to have it completely come crashing down in a blink of an eye threw me through a loop. Like I feel like it cut me to my core, and I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Why the fuck did this happen to me? And it was kind of a cool, like looking at it now, it was a cool process of letting myself feel it. I think it was like 3 days. I was crying. I was pissed, screaming, not at people, but just like in my own,
in my pillow,
in the car. Like I didn't even know where to go. I sold all my sound bowls. I sold, everything back that I put into this, because I was like, I was in this motion of like, I don't want anything to do with what I was just doing. Kind of a feeling. And looking back on it now, I'm like, dang, I really wish I still had my sound bowls, you know? But I felt like in that moment, I just had to let it all go and start again, really, essentially is what happened.
Almost like release that negative energy so you can get the new back.
Yeah. And I had a choice, during those moments. I was asked to still be part of that little bit, like follow through with what we were about to embark on. And I sat with it and I felt really icky. And then I decided just to kind of not show up and not be a part of it, and let her do that one full moon ceremony by herself. And I was super happy that I chose that, because there was no point in putting in, a beautiful energy ceremony together when the energy between us two were broken.
Right. Yeah, because that's going to transfer too into what you guys were actually doing. And it's just it's not going to be there.
Yeah. And in that moment, I chose me. I chose my peace to not put myself in that position. And did I let her down? Probably. Yeah. But that's okay, because I chose myself. Yeah. And that's really the number one thing, is to always choose yourself.
Yeah. And it's not like, you may have let her down when it came to that, but it's not like you did it in like a hurtful way or like to be malicious.
No, I just put up a boundary.
Yeah, for sure.
Stayed on my side of it.
It just didn't connect. Yeah. Do you think that, okay, so what'd you get out of that?
That choosing me is always the right way to go.
Yeah.
Is as messy as it might seem in that moment, and all the things in your mind that the ego kind of starts to override, and like, oh, I shouldn't let her down. Oh, I shouldn't do this. And you're totally not thinking about yourself.
Yeah, it's that negative talk. Yeah.
Yeah. And so choosing myself and realizing that, looking back on it now, there's so many red flags that I didn't see, because I was just consumed with all the things that was going on, that I was spending money that I shouldn't have been spending to make it happen, putting myself in like bad situations, and letting somebody else, decide over what I truly wanted and my vision of it. And so now it's like embarking on this new journey with another woman is like, okay, what were the lessons I learned in this scenario to not let it happen in this next scenario? So it's almost like it's actually, it's a very much a life lesson. And that's the other thing I was going to say for 2023 is realizing that everything, literally every little tiny thing, is either a lesson in love or pain.
Yeah.
And when you can really just narrow it down to that simplicity, then you don't get so overwhelmed in all the things, because you can have the awareness to be like, okay, what's the lesson in this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's happening for a reason. What do I need to learn from it?
Yeah.
And that awareness is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think it's good to look at things like that, because the whole thing, everything happens for a reason, right? I feel like maybe there's Well, I take that back. There's a reason. You just have to figure out what it is, and it could be multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to figure out the one that's going to benefit you. It's finding the light in the situation, right? Because you could easily say, well, this happened for a fucked up reason, right? Or this happened to help me in this way.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's good that you look at it like that.
Yeah, because it brought me right back to a period of my life where the few female friendships that I had, I was losing myself to feel cool in this group of women.
Yeah.
Right. And those are some of the red flags that I could now see in that relationship with her, was that I was losing myself. I was almost becoming her.
Right.
Right. And that's what you used to say is like, oh, you're acting like her. And that's,
you start to lose yourself that way. Yeah. And it happens to everybody, because, show me your 5 friends, I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
Right. But that's why you have to pick, and nothing negative against that particular person, but you have to be very cautious of who's in your circle, because that's what inevitably it's going to happen. They're going to rub off on you to some degree.
Yeah.
Right. So like you and Jessica, that's not an issue. You haven't seen
that, right?
It's a positive thing.
Yeah.
That's
what I was just the other day when me and the kids went over to your niece, I was talking to her about that, and I was like, you're one friend that I've never changed who I was for. And that's huge.
Yeah.
When you can realize the friends that you don't change who you are around,
right?
Those are your tribe.
100%. Yeah.
Because you don't have to put on a fake facade, for them.
Yeah. I remember I was, just this last time I saw Mike, I was telling him how he asked me, he was like, we were talking about the whole life change and stuff like that. He was like, do you have people you hang out with? And I was like, nah, not really. And he was like, of course you don't. I was like, Staci has, her friends, and we have our mutual friends and stuff like that. But like me specifically, people that are for me, I don't really have that a whole lot. And I was explaining to him, like, for some weird reason, I gravitate towards the people that gravitate towards me are the wrong type of person. They're like my old version of me. For some reason, those are the people that I naturally attract. What I feel comfortable around is the people that are better than me, right? So I have to be very selective and actually pursue finding those people. And that's the reason I don't have a whole lot of friends, because the easy ones that are just around are the wrong type of people. And I know that I'm influenced to some degree on what other people are doing. You know what I mean? So I get that. You have to be really, really selective, especially at like a time like this in your life where you're aware of it, right? And you're trying to make that shift into being somebody that you want to be rather than somebody that you've always been. And you just have to make the decisions. So it's good that you can take a positive away from that.
Yeah, it took a long time, a lot of months, really staying with it and feeling terrible about it, to finally come to the conclusion that there is a positive that can come out of it.
Yeah.
There's always a positive that can come out of the negative. You just have to do the inner work, I think, to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're not really ready to sit with it and dissect it, it's almost you have to go through this whole like dissecting of like everything that happened to then be like, okay,
yeah,
this is what I needed to gain from this thing. They say that every single person that we come in contact with is there for a purpose.
It's a lesson.
Yeah. And they can be there for a short amount of time, or they can be there for a big amount of time. And there's always something out of it. And they also say, the more you heal yourself, the less people are there to witness it, because your tribe just gets smaller and smaller.
Right. For sure. Yeah. 4 quarters. I forget where it was, but I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, it sounds like, I mean, obviously I've been there, but this year was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to say my negative would probably just be the family stuff.
Yeah,
it was very heavy. Very
heavy family issues this year.
Yeah. I've talked about it a couple times, but yeah, I think one of the things that has taught me, though, the positive side of that is to, I guess, like you said, focus on yourself. Because I tend to, the people that I care about, whether it's you, the kids, my dad, my brothers, my mom, my sister, whatever, I care a lot, right? Even with work, right? I care a lot and I get so wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And when people make dumb mistakes or making stupid decisions or whatever, you want to shake them, you know, and you want to help, you want to correct the path, but you can't. You can only take care of you, right? And I had to take some of my own advice because I just tell you all the time, if it doesn't affect anything under this roof, it doesn't affect me, period. But when it came to family, I retracted that and put everything I had into it. It broke me down quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's also got me to the point where I am right now to where I love you. Your decisions aren't going to fuck with me anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's putting up those healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, you can care. I mean, we should, our hearts should be completely wide open to everybody that comes across our path.
Yeah.
But healthy boundaries is so important because you have to protect your peace. You know, it's okay to wholeheartedly love each one of them and want to help, but not if it's going to sacrifice your energy and your peace.
Right. Yeah.
So being able to say, I'm here for you in these ways, but outside of these ways, you're on your own.
Yeah. Can't do anything about it. Yeah. For sure. Okay. So one last question about 2023. We have a little, what do you call it? Message board?
Yeah.
A little message board out in the living room. And each year we do something for Christmas and then we do something for the new year. I think this is the third time, maybe second, third.
That we've done it.
So 2023, all it said was create your own happiness. And that came from, I believe that came from a mushroom trip. And it was very
profound.
Right. Do you think that you took that and did something with it? Because it's right there every day. You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I for sure think that I did, because if you really think about all the ups and downs of the year, I can take away so much happiness from 2023 too. And that I had every opportunity to let negative things completely bring me down. But I still just kept climbing up and trying to find my own happiness.
Right.
And it came in a slew of different things. I just kept trying one thing after another of different things to bring me joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And I think in a whole, 2023 was a very positive year. A big positive growth year, I think.
For sure.
In a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that little reminder every day when you don't feel happy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but I can create it.
You have to create your own happiness. Yeah. I think that's huge. That was a big, like you see it every day. So it's one of those things where it's a little reminder every time that you see it to create your own happiness. I forget the song. I forget who it's by and what it's called, but it's basically like the negative is natural. The negative is so easy to be there, right? Yeah. The darkness is always there, but you have to physically turn on the light.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good,
Yeah. So it's easy to be sad. It's hard to be happy, right? Because you have to create your happiness, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I did a pretty good job of that too. I think more towards the end of the year.
Yes, definitely. I think there was a pivotal moment. Can't really pinpoint it, but somewhere like, I don't know, within May, maybe right around my Shasta trip was probably a pivotal moment that it kind of, I feel like that was the trajectory of my lowest points, and then since then, it was like an uphill climb.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there was some point where, this is probably not even that, maybe a couple months ago, where I was just like, I need to chill the fuck out. Right. Mm-hmm. And then like throughout the year, like I'm always doing something, but I just kind of retracted all of it and just kind of just sat with everything, because I think I even remember telling you, I was like, what if I just work, make money, and not worry about anything else? And that's pretty much what I've done since then, right? We've done trips and stuff like that, but like worrying about all the little things that need to get done all the time. And the feeling I have when I don't do things, I've taken your advice on actually being rather than doing, and I think that was a big part of creating my happiness, right? Happiness, like I'm happy when things get done. I feel productive, but at the same time, I'm depleting my energy.
Right.
So I think my biggest create your own happiness thing would have to be taking care of myself.
Yes.
Right? And that makes me a lot more happy.
Yeah. I think all of everything really comes down to one simple concept. You take care of yourself and you love yourself and your cup is full, you can literally spill out over to everybody else that comes in your bubble.
Yeah.
And then just, you working on yourself is going to give
it's just like putting out that positive energy
to somebody else. And just down to the simple fact of we're just doing our own thing and your parents loved it and they put up Christmas for the first time in 15 years.
Yeah, that's right.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And just because we were happily doing our thing, it was like infectious to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, how the power of positivity can just snowball.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're really filling up your cup and, that self-love, I know that people think like self-love is like, oh, going to get pedicure, taking hot baths and stuff like that.
Which is great.
It's great. Yeah. But I think that inner, like loving yourself at your core, at your darkest moments, at your highest
loving
moments.
Exactly who you are.
Yeah.
And if you don't love that person, what are you doing to change it?
Exactly.
Right? There's a lot about me that I think I ended up telling you one time. I was like, I do not like the person that I am at all.
Yeah.
And that's changed. That's changed a lot. That's like huge for me.
Yeah. I think realizing, and I know people probably won't, not everybody believes this, but I truly believe like this is just an avatar. Your soul, the person, the entity inside of you that's operating this whole system. That's not Matt. This is not, that's not Staci.
Yeah.
When this Staci meat suit dies one day,
the meat suit,
that soul is still going to be there, and it's not Staci.
Yeah.
And so if you don't like the avatar, change it.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And as humans, we become lazy. We don't want to do the work. It's hard. Change yourself is hard.
Yeah, because the negative is always hard.
Yeah.
Right? You got to work to put the smile on.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. But we're always capable to do it. I was just literally having this thought last night, I think I came to it, and I was like thinking about my hair career and how I'm almost going on 20 years of being a hairstylist and how it's changed so drastically to now where I'm at. But when I started beauty school, I had no idea what I was doing. And that can, in that moment, that's daunting. Like, oh, how am I ever going to be where I'm at 20 years later? Right. You don't think about that when you're taking day one. But looking at it now and the growth and how well I can do hair is like, well, you can learn anything probably.
100%.
It just takes day one.
Yeah.
Just start.
You just got to pull the trigger. That's the hardest part. We were talking about cold plunging earlier.
Yeah.
You had a thought of like, oh, I want to be this person. This is the person I want to be. And that's kind of the thing going into the new year too. Like, this is the vision I have for who I am. What are the things that I need to do to get that done?
What daily little steps?
And I think think about all the things that are good for you, all the things that are positive. Those are the hard fucking things to do. It's wild, right? It's easy to sit on the couch. It's hard to get up and go to the gym.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to sleep in. It's hard to get up and go to do whatever you need to do early in the morning.
Yep.
It's easy to take a hot shower. hard to get in that cold plunge.
Yeah.
Right? But all those hard things benefit so much.
So much. Yep.
Yeah.
It's having it's loving yourself enough to do the hard things.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And that's where I've, going through trying to sell makeup online, trying to sell health and wellness supplements. Like, I love taking care of my body. I love trying to teach people.
Yeah.
But the frustrating part of it is you cannot change anybody.
Yeah.
And when you are giving these steps and the person isn't wanting to take the steps, that's hard. It's a hard thing to be doing.
Yes.
So I kind of having to shove all that to the side until I can know exactly what I need to do for myself, and then just live it to teach people. Not necessarily, saying like, oh, we need to do this and this and this. And then I don't even take my own advice.
Right.
Until I can actually embody that person, what I want to teach and put out into the world, then that'll come later.
Yeah.
The teaching will. Because everybody has to be on the level of wanting to help themselves.
Yep.
If they're not there, no supplement, no diet, nothing is going to miraculously change them.
It's not. Yeah, you have to be that example. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, okay, I'm really focusing on like nature and how all the rest of nature works, that humans don't realize that we're nature too, and we're so off course. And so that's why I'm actually boycotting New Year's this year, and celebrating April 1st.
So talk about that. What is that? Because typical New Year for
socially
everybody
accepted New Year
really is the beginning of the new number year. So like end of 2023, start of 2024 is the new year.
Yeah.
The new calendar year.
Yeah.
So with what you're doing this year, what is that? When is the new year start in your...
April 1st is when I believe the new year should be started.
And why is that?
Well, I learned about it in like the paganism culture, where they're just kind of, their religion is just kind of revolved around the wheel of the year and nature, and how all nature is in a cycle. And, right, like fall and winter, you watch all the trees, all the plants basically shed everything, release everything, let it go, and then go into a death period where they just are inner nurturing themselves and resting. Everything's in a restful phase. Well, if you truly think of humanity as being a part of nature too, when you have something like New Year's and setting all these big intentions and these big goals, when your body should still be in a phase of rest. Now, I'm not saying like don't set goals for yourself always throughout the whole year, set goals for yourself. But when you try, a lot of people focus on health and wellness. And so when your body physically in nature, the nature of your body is still in a phase of rest, and you set all these intentions and goals, and you're like, January 2nd, you're in the gym and you're doing all these things. And by March, you're kind of falling off your goal. Typically, I wish I could find like a statistic that showed like how many people fall off of their New Year's resolutions.
Anybody that's been to a gym before at the beginning of the year,
it's so busy
up until, like you said, March, April, it's a drastic change
because they're burnt out, because their bodies are not supposed to be putting out that much energy when we're supposed to be in a state of rest and renewal and gaining all that energy back. And so I think when all of the rest of nature is starting to spring and blossom and start anew, I think humans should be on that same cycle. And if you were to wait and still let your body completely rest and, eat a little bit more calories, like fill yourself with like vegetable soups and like really hearty, good for you food, and not feel guilty about the extra calories, but you should never feel guilty about what you're consuming, because that's just gonna be negative inside your body. But if you can just be okay with letting yourself rest more, curl up on the couch and read a book more, have a day where you don't get out of your pajamas, like allow yourself to fully like
rest and recover,
then set your big goals for the springtime and then see how much better you can maintain your goals from spring to fall.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think a lot of people are, I mean, obviously it's just a thing for New Year, the calendar year to start over. I think a lot of people use that as a marker just because it's like, oh, well, this is when the year started, so I can see my progress from this date. It's easier that way. But what you say makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would benefit a lot more people because I tend to now look at things on an energetic scale where you have fear, guilt, and shame on the lowest vibrations possible in all of Earth. Every living thing is on this vibration scale. And you have authenticity, love, and joy at your highest vibration. And so if you're setting these intentions and you're just like high vibration, I'm ready for this new year, and then you start like you physically can't do it most of the time, you end up feeling what about yourself? Shame.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I can't do this. And you have all that negative inner talk starting to come in because you weren't actually ready to do what you set out to do.
Yeah.
And I think that, I personally think that it's a manipulation in this earth realm.
It makes sense too, because like during the spring and summer when the sun's out, I don't know about anybody else, but when the sun's out, I am so much more motivated to do things. I'm happier. Like things move way smoother, right? So it makes sense because when the winter time comes around, you're just kind of like, especially here in Washington, everything's dreary. It's cold. You want to be cozy. You want to just be comfortable. So to like have that downtime to actually be is important. So like I kind of took that advice. So like I set my goals for this year. I have, quite a few things written down. But like my goals that like my physical goals for me don't start until March this year. And usually it's like New Year's, boom, I'm into it. But I've been really good up to this point. There's really nothing I can change.
Yeah.
But when March comes around, that's when I'm really going to start like progressing. Right. And I think that's going to be a huge change this year.
Yeah.
But I do have some goals that like New Year goals that have started a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And goals that I'm going to work on the coming week, you know? So I'm not personally using it as, it's almost like just a time to revamp everything. Like, let's just sit down right now before that day flips into 2024 and let's use this as a marker. But let's maybe focus on like the physical, mental, emotional stuff. Like you said, March, April, right? And see how much that changes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and I'm just now learning this too, because when you think of someone's like, you need to rest more. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to lay around on the couch and do nothing.
Right.
Rest is actually just when your nervous system is not in flight mode. Your nervous system is at rest. That could be painting. That could be going for a walk. So it's not like you're not active. You can still be active and at a state of rest.
Right.
So I don't mean physically like resting all the time. Like if your body needs to lay in bed for a whole week or lay on the couch and just watch trash TV, do it. If that's what's going to make your heart happy. Right. Because that's all that matters. As long as you're doing things to bring you pure joy, then your body is at a state of rest. That can be doing anything. And so like I said, having goals throughout the whole year is no big deal, but the physical attribute shouldn't be started until our bodies are supposed to be. So I plan on reading a lot of books. I've been reading a lot of books lately, and that's just training my mind and putting in more knowledge, and that's still tackling some goals while still being restful.
Yeah. That's another one of those things that's hard. Like I tell myself all the time, read more. And when we were doing 75 Hard previously, I was reading a lot and it was fucking great. And then it's one of those things where it's like, it's easy to watch TV. It's hard to read a book. They're the same fucking thing. It takes up the same amount of time, but one's totally easier than the other one. And that's one thing I want to do a lot more this year too. I mean, we are doing 75 Hard. But I think before that, I want to start reading and actually have a book on hand that when I think about it, I have something to go to.
Yeah. like that. Starting this new book. I just set a date with Tierney to start a new book that she chose for our book club. Like January 17th. So, but I want to read this mind control book. So that's my goal. Like I have to read this whole book before I start this actual book club book.
Yeah. Your book club, is that something that people can reach out to you to like be a part of?
Oh, absolutely. It's just me and my friend Tierney right now, just reading books and chit-chatting
they all start
about
somewhere.
it. But yeah, the more the merrier. Just talking about just being open-minded. And we read Mary Magdalene Revealed, which was really eye-opening. And I forget the name of the one that she just picked, but it's I don't think it's like a self-help book per se, but it had a cool storyline. So just be excited to just kind of open your mind to new ideas and stories and talk about them openly.
Yeah.
Different perspectives. I think that's what a lot of this next year with your podcast and my podcast starting is just being able to talk with like-minded people, but also getting like different perspectives.
Yes.
You know, and letting people have the space to talk about their points of view. Because that's been another big thing for me in 2023 is realizing every single one of us, no matter who it is living an entire different reality based on how you grew up, the things that happened to you in your childhood, the things that you experienced.
It's your movie.
Makes your vision completely different than anybody else.
That one gives me goosebumps. Because it always takes me back to, it's either the 4 agreement or the 5th agreement. I can't remember which one it is, but when they talk about the movie.
Yeah.
They talk about if you're in a movie theater watching your movie, everything looks the way that you see it, right? You can go into the movie theater next door and you're watching a movie where it's the same thing, but I look a little bit different. I talk a little bit different in your movie. I move a little bit different in your movie. And it's just based on perception, right? And that's just because you may have had something happen in your life previous that completely changed the way that you look at somebody with the black shirt on.
Yep.
Right? It's something so small, but it changes something so different.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've really been trying to think about too, is everybody's dealing with or dealt with something that's making them do what they're doing right now.
Yes.
Right? So you can't, like, just because somebody thinks a different way than you doesn't mean it's wrong. And I'm trying to like dial that in and be more open-minded, because like the whole driving thing to me is like, somebody in front of you is going 50 miles an hour in a 60. That could be the first time they're back in the car after an accident.
Absolutely.
And I keep going back to that analogy because that's a huge one for me. You don't know. You have no idea.
Yeah. You never know what anybody else has gone through. And I've really dialed back like judgment. Now, don't get me wrong. Humans judge other humans. Yeah. But when I catch myself doing it, I'm like, stop. Yeah. Like I'll mentally tell myself to stop because I have no reason.
And that's the awareness.
And the awareness. And then I know, I believe that we mirror each other. So if I'm judging that person for something,
they're probably judging you too.
No, it's like, what in me am I judging?
Oh yeah.
So, one thing that sticks out in my mind was, like you see somebody like walking down the street wearing like hoochie mama clothes and then you like judge them and you're like, oh, well, what about that triggered you?
Yeah.
Like, are you, for me, I was like, am I jealous that they can flaunt what they have and be confident? Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So then when you can actually catch yourself doing those things and then revert it back to you and see where the root of it is coming from, then you can stop it and then you can like fix it inside of you right then. Right. And then you look at the same people walking down the street and you're just like, awesome, dude. They're just being
just
them.
Rock it. Hell yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So talking about your podcast and the book club and stuff like that, what's your podcast?
Mindfully Blissed podcast on Spotify and YouTube.
And what can people expect from it?
Oh gosh, it's me and my girlfriend. There's only a podcast with me on there right now, episode 1. But my friend Jessica Larimore, she's going to be joining me on Tuesday, actually. I don't know when this will air, but we're recording our first one together to introduce her and what she's going to bring to the table. And we're both two homeschool moms, and everything like spiritual. We're both kind of on this like journey of like debunking the Bible, finding truths in all religion, faith, spirituality, finding the common ground. I think that's the best way I like to describe it, is like finding how all of them come together and then what that means.
How they all connect.
Yeah, because they're like all the same story, just with slightly different characters, but the whole points of all of them are the same. Like they originate from the same point, but they just share it kind of differently.
Right.
And so that's been a big journey. All of a sudden, I find so much joy reading about it and things like that. And it makes me feel cuckoo sometimes, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy. And so I'm just kind of riding the wave and seeing where it takes me.
The key point out of anything, though, is if it make you happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly,
create your own happiness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think everything from spirituality, where you've come from, you know, ways to cope with things, like giving some advice of what's worked for people to overcome big obstacles, tips and tricks during homeschooling. And I mean, just kind of wherever it is.
You've been doing like Oracle and tarot cards. Am I right?
Learning.
You've been doing both of them?
Oracle. I do mostly Oracle readings, but I'm learning tarot. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm really excited.
Is that something that you're going to be doing on your YouTube channel as well?
Yep. So there'll be like podcast episodes, but then I'll come in. There is one affirmation. I'm doing weekly affirmations. So once a week, I'll connect with spirit and my guides and draw a card for the week. And it has a little affirmation. This week's right now is, I am always provided for. I'm always provided for. So then you can screenshot it or write on your mirror to say that affirmation every single day for that week and see how it serves you, how it changes your perspective and your view on things.
Yeah.
So everybody can tune in every week and get a new affirmation for the week to focus on, just kind of something positive to focus on every week.
For sure. I think that's important because not everybody can sit down and come up with those themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like I sit down and write them almost every morning.
Yep.
Right. And then when I don't, I still have those few that I go back to that resonate with me.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that. So it'd be nice to have something that they can go to have that provided for them.
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's a bit. Yeah. And I think especially with just like the one that I'm talking about, I'm always provided for. You know, you can just be there in the back of your mind and say, you know, you're at the grocery store and you only have X amount to spend, and you get to the cash register and it's just like slightly over. And in that moment, you're like, oh my gosh, frustrated, embarrassed, all the feelings, right? And so you put something back in or whatever, or somebody, like for me, someone paid for my groceries one day and it was magical. So,
yeah.
And then having the ability, I think it was like not even a week later, somebody in front of me was short a little bit and I was able to pay it back. And it was just really cool to experience that and to realize that I'm always provided for. Yeah. It might not always be in the way that I think, but I am.
Yeah.
And so that's something you can always come back to and just say to yourself when you get in those frustrating circumstances.
I think that's a big, like you just hit something really important. You're not always going to think that way. You're not always going to act that way.
Right.
It's hard, right? Yeah. It's like I keep saying, the negative is easy, the positive is hard. Yeah. You have to consciously activate that and do that in your head every time. Sometimes you slip, sometimes you'll fall, but you got to get back to it.
Got to come back to it. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I think affirmations really help me. And that's why I want to put affirmations out there because that was the start of our whole journey to bettering ourselves. Some people want to call it spirituality. I think it's just bettering ourselves, really, in a whole.
Do you know where I think it started? Sounds, frequencies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sounds, frequencies, and then affirmations.
That one day I discovered, so I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's solfeggio.
Solfeggio.
Solfeggio? Yeah. I remember one time you were gone, I cleaned the house, and I just put that on, and the way that the music came through speakers, I was like,
you're in resonance with it.
I was like vibrating myself, right? And I remember telling you, I was like, oh my God, I had the lights off, and like I was feeling this music. And ever since then, we've started listening to frequencies.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of taken off from there.
Very true.
You know?
Yeah.
And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when you just realize that frequency, vibration, and energy is at the core of everything. At its most basic level is a frequency and a vibration.
Yeah.
And that's what Nikola Tesla says. His famous quote is, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Right.
And so that's, ever since I read his biography, that's why I put everything on the resonance scale. I'm like, if it's making me feel fear, guilt, and shame, bye.
Yeah. Get rid of it for sure. Can you talk about Bloom Society? Or is that something you want to wait to talk about until it's more in motion?
I probably more so when it's in motion, but I can give a little bit of, it's basically a women's entrepreneurship group, society, where women of business, like small business owners, big business owners, can come together and have a space to share their business. There's platforms in place to share a business publicly and things like that. But it's the object behind it is bringing women back together. I think as society started, with all these like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but basically like society is kind of like driven women apart, almost to compete with each other instead of coming together and working as one.
Right.
And so that's a big vision for my friend Jessica, who's originally founded this business, and she wanted to bring me on. So I'm super blessed and fortunate that she chose me. So that's really cool. And yeah, she just wants to see women coming together to change the community of it. Yeah. And it kind of goes in line with some of the things that became really prevalent to me this year, was realizing, especially in women's societies. I don't know if you guys have ever like watched like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, but at one point, I think like in 2007, 2008, 2009, I was obsessed. Me and one of my girlfriends got together every week and started watching it, and realizing like the concept of that show and what it's programming women to do is like compete against each other for the love of a man.
Right.
No wonder women compete with each other. No wonder it's hard for women to have close connected relationships, and thinking that we have to like be better than each other to win this love from a man. It's wild what something like that, a little TV show, is literally programming. That's why they call it a program. Yeah. Programming a demographic of women to do this. Yeah. And then on the other side, you have the man up there being swooned by 20 women. Yeah. Like, it's just such a weird concept. But when I kind of realized that what that show did, looking back at those times, those years, I had the worst female friendships and the worst partners. Yeah. Like, no wonder. Yeah. And so that was a big thing. And so me having that vision and wanting to speak on it, I haven't really spoke on it yet, but with this new business, I'll have the space to
talk about it. That'll be good. Yeah. I'm excited for that for you guys.
So we're just everything is completely up and ready to go. We are actually just waiting to get a grant and have a space.
Nice. Yeah. So again, what's your YouTube called? Mindfully Blissed.
Mindfully Blissed. Okay. Which actually means conscious spiritual joy.
I like it.
Yeah.
And how'd you come up with that?
It just came to me. I literally one day had this voice in my head that said mindfully blissed. And so I asked myself, what is this? Just write it down is what I heard. And so I just wrote it on this piece of paper. Yeah. And then I thought originally that it was going to be the book club that I was starting. And I was definitely told no.
Turned into something bigger.
Yeah, it turned into something bigger. And so on November 11th, the 11/11 portal me and Jessica were together, hot tubbing and gabbing, and it just
bloomed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was so wild. And so we were just like, oh my gosh. So we're kind of incorporating it all together. We worked out like whether we wanted, our storefront to be Mindfully Blissed or Bloom Society, and it's going to be Bloom Society. And then we'll have an event space. That's basically what it's going to be, like a gift shop with big event space in the back for people to rent the space to put on their own, lectures and events and whatnot. And then for us to do our own things, we can record our podcast there, and people that want to rent the space for their own podcast, they would be available to do that too. And then in the gift shop will just be the things that the women's businesses, what they make or have to offer, you can purchase their stuff. So I think it'll be a really cool thing.
Yeah, I should have both you guys on here. Once that gets rolling, I'd like to have both you guys on there and talk about that. I think that'd be really cool. I think it'd be good for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and this is her baby. She started this, maybe last year or early this year, and this with everything going on, things just.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a big process. And
for sure.
Yeah, she would be able to really share the heart of it.
Yeah. So
that'd be really cool.
Nice.
But yeah, I feel really fortunate and kind of excited for some things to unfold.
Yeah.
So
okay, with I know you're not doing the New Year thing, like as of tomorrow, but what are some things that you're going to focus on personally for you? Not necessarily like business or anything like that, but like personally, internally.
This year is going to be a lot of self-love and self-care, spending the money on massages for myself when my body is hurting, being more mindful about things that I put in my body, not smoking weed as much, things like that, being more intentional with plant medicine, scheduling more. What did I say to you? I was either going to physically travel or inner travel this year. So a lot of, diving within myself.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think there's, for me, I want to try to do some of the internal traveling.
Yeah.
More than last year. Because that's where it kicks it off for me. Yeah. And it's like it's a perishable thing too. It's not like you can have like an experience once and then have that carry out through the rest of your life. It's like you have to have that experience and then work on it and then have the experience again and work on it. Yeah. It's like anything else.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was telling my mom yesterday. We were kind of talking about those things and how, unfortunately, a lot of plant medicines get put in the same category as like heroin and coke and meth and things like that. And they're so 100% opposite of each other in how.
If you're doing it right.
If you're doing it right.
If you're not, yeah.
But I feel like even the people that I know that, do psilocybin or do mushrooms, like smaller dosages for like partying, I feel like they're not addicted to it. There's no way to become addicted to these medicines.
Yeah, and they still are a little bit more enlightened than some people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are. They are on a different level than
even others. If it's just like, I've noticed that I don't think I've ever met somebody that uses mushrooms recreationally that is like a low vibration person.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think even if you never get to the point where you're brave enough to do like a 3 gram up dose,
right?
Even if you were to only microdose, you would still be more enlightened
for sure
than the average person.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's just medicine.
Yeah. And you just feel better too. Like I microdose, you do it every so often too.
Yeah.
And it
allows your nervous system to regulate. I think.
Yeah. I just feel, and it's a very small dose. It's not like, oh yeah, Matt, of course you're taking mushrooms. No, it's not like
there's
a point.
There's no like visuals or like
it's like
crazy.
A 0.2 gram, but I feel it, and the more often that I do it, I feel like I'm lighter.
Yeah, it's like I'm just the lightness that
I'm not as weighed down by life as much. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's also not an escape either, because it's not like I'm dazed or I have a fog, like I just got done smoking a bunch of weed or like drank a bunch of alcohol. You're completely clear. You don't feel that load, and you can make better decisions, and you can have that higher frequency when you're going about your life.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely think there's a huge difference with so life is heavy, right? And you can either choose to do like what I think plant medicines do, which open you up to actually feel the heaviness and then let that heaviness go, which gives you that lightness. Or you can choose to do like alcohol and things like that, which just mask it.
Bury it.
It just buries it. So you can either take your heaviness and let it go and lift up, or you can just keep consuming things that are going to just bury it. And then one day they have to come out.
Yeah.
That's why you see people
know that.
Bury it and bury it and bury it until one day they explode. That is why.
Snap. Yeah.
That's why you'll see like what I think personally, like when you see like a child who shoots up a school. Okay, that's obviously a horrible thing that kid did.
Right.
But if you can step back and wonder what happened to that child, what he repressed or she repressed for so long that it literally combusted that person.
Right.
And made them do an act that they would probably not necessarily do if they were actually loved fully and seen and heard and all the things.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's been like really eye-opening, is to like really kind of step out of a situation and look at it from a different perspective. And like, we can put blame on our lives onto different people in our life. But then when you can say, well, what happened to them in their younger years that made them who they were?
Dude.
Right?
Yeah. So, okay. Remember when we were looking at pictures?
Yeah.
So we had my mom over Thanksgiving, and it was great. And she brought all these pictures over. And like, I've seen all these pictures before, but there's something about now who I am, I think maybe just being older or whatever, that I'm seeing these pictures of my mom and I'm actually asking questions. I'm like, who is this? Who were they? How were they to you? Right. And even like just hearing that makes me understand my mom so much more. Right. Like, I've never held any of my things against my mom. Right.
You've been really good about that.
I have been. I can't say that for the rest of my family.
No.
But my mom's amazing, and everybody is given what they're given, right? And they do the best with what they're given, right? So if you have somebody that grows up in a shitty childhood, well, that's what they're given, and they're making the best of it, right? So I didn't grow up in a shitty childhood. Did I grow up around some things that I probably shouldn't be around? Yeah. Did I make decisions because of those things? Absolutely. But still, it's ultimately up to me to make those decisions, right? And to take that information and learn from it.
Yeah. You might have been influenced by what your folks were doing, but you ultimately had the decision to do certain things, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And to make choices based on that knowledge or that experience, right? Rather than using that as an excuse to fuck up all the time and just say, oh, no, it's because my parents, blah, 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 right? Yeah. No, it's not. Like, that's what you think it is, but you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, right? That's like saying, oh, my kids are screwed because I wasn't beat, but if I was beat, my kids are just screwed because I was beat, and I'm going to beat them. No, you have the choice to do something completely different.
Yeah. And that's what I think that is a big shift in parents today. Like you and I as generation of parents. A lot of people in like the spiritual community call it like breaking generational curses.
Yes.
And there's a big shift of doing that and realizing that just because something was done a certain way for so many years doesn't mean it needs to be repeated.
Right.
So when you start having that, when you say to yourself, oh, my parents did this to me when I was a kid and I turned out fine. Well, did you?
probably fucked you up a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
So why repeat it? Just because it happened to you and you think that you're fine, why repeat it?
Yeah.
And that's been obviously you've seen that shift in me.
For sure.
With my parenting. And I don't want to call it like gentle parenting because I definitely say no. Right. And I have boundaries with my kids. I think the gentle parenting thing is like
it'll never
the kids rule the house. That part of it I can't stand.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, parents, you are the parents. Don't let your kids parent you.
Right, 100%.
And there's a lot of
but there's certain things
people that do that. But yeah, so like for instance, like with Kinsley's eating, it's like looking at her as a human. She's going to have things that she doesn't like and doesn't want to eat and feel yucky. Why force them and traumatize them with that? Like set a boundary and say, this is what you're going to have. You don't have to eat it. I'm not going to force you to.
But that's all you get.
But that's all you get.
I don't force them because as an adult, if somebody were to give you a plate of liver and be like, you have to eat this or sit here all night until you go to bed, until you eat it, you'd be like, fuck you, dude. I'm not doing this. Flip the table upside down.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Because that was part of my childhood trauma. Is being forced to eat all the food on my plate. And it's like, as a parent, you're like, oh, I want my kids to eat properly, but you're not them.
Right.
You're not inside their belly being like, I really can't put another morsel in my body. No. So you wonder, like, you see like our parents and then our parents' parents, those two generations, especially like our grandparents, they, most of them lived through like the Great Depression. And that's where a lot of that trauma comes from. They didn't have a whole lot. So they ate what they could.
What you get, yeah.
You get what you get. Don't throw a fit.
Right.
And so it's been passed on and it's obviously lighter as each generation progresses. But like, look at the correlation between eat all your food or don't, stay at the table till you eat your dinner. Like I had to sit at the table till I ate all my dinner a couple times. No wonder there's so much obesity because you're not listening to your body when your body says no more food.
Yeah. And I think
you feel socially like messed up when you don't eat all your food. You feel guilty or, and that's another thing. They shove that in your face. Like, oh, there's dying children or starving children in China. And, in America, you get plates like this of food and then you feel guilty because you don't eat all of it.
Yeah.
No more.
This kid is dying of starvation, so you need to be fat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it works that way.
Look at that. Like that is just, that's huge for me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, you know what? If a restaurant is going to put that much food on my plate, I'm not going to feel guilty if I can't eat it all.
Right.
And if I don't want to warm it up and it be gross, I'm not going to take it home.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I do think when it comes to kids do play games, and we've talked about that before.
Right. That's why healthy boundaries.
It's like if you're not going to eat the chicken, rice, and broccoli, wherever it may be, that's fine. You don't have to eat it. But I'm not making you mac and cheese to have for dinner, right? Like, eat it or don't eat it. Yeah. Those are your choices. And then you can try again tomorrow at breakfast. You know what I mean?
Yep. And a lot of the times she does that and she's just fine. She doesn't starve. She's
and if she wants to eat, she'll eat. We kind of did the same thing with Kellen. I mean, we're learning more as it goes.
I know. That's why I've actually had conversations with Kellen, our 12-year-old, and I've apologized for some of the things that I did to him as a child that I don't do with Kinsley because I've learned.
Yeah.
And I've become more aware of a pattern I didn't want to keep.
Yeah, that's the thing with any parent. You see a difference between the oldest, the middle, and the youngest. Like there's totally difference. But and like going back to like the generational things, proud to say, coming up on my birthday, I'll be a year with no alcohol, except for that one drink in Arizona, which I told you I didn't even fucking like. I don't think I even finished it. And afterwards, I was like, this is absolutely disgusting. I don't know why I drank that. And it was just one of those spur of the moment. We were sitting there. It was nice. It was sunny. We were walking around the whole time. We had some oysters. Just really nice. What do you call it? Yeah, speakeasy. And I was like, fuck it. And I had like this gin champagne drink. And I was like, this is fucking gross. So it'll be almost a year. Yeah. And that's one of those things like, I love you, mom. I love you, dad. But there was a lot of alcohol in my family, especially on my dad's end. And
you saw a pattern you didn't want to repeat.
That gave me a big, I drank a lot, right? From when I was 18, before I was 18, up to 33 or 34. And it wasn't healthy. And I noticed sometimes like just drinking just because, right?
Yeah.
And I'm drinking because I'm doing things like I'm cleaning, so I'm going to drink, right?
Yeah.
And it's unhealthy. And it's one of those things. It just happened to be that I just didn't want to anymore. I don't feel like I'd never skip work because of it. I never it wasn't like a problem, but it's that generational thing. Why do I want to present that to my children, the people that are most influenced in my home? Why do I want to be that? So they have the same problem or the same issues because of it. Right. The whole reason I went to prison was because I was drunk. Right. Why do I want to put that into my kids?
Yeah, exactly. You know? And that's a reason why they call it spirits. It opens your body to allow different spirits in. That's why people change. You can be one person and you get a few drinks in you and you're a different person.
Completely different.
Because it allows those different entities to come into your body.
100%.
I was just thinking last night, I believe it was, I was thinking about drinking and how I had a little bit of the cider with my mom yesterday. And how at one point you and I were drinking daily. Wine with dinner, wine with prepping dinner, like wine and beer all the time. Yeah. And then you and I have our little arguments here and there, just like normal married folks. But when we would have, back when we were drinking a lot, we would have a yearly blowout, and it always was because of alcohol. And ever since we dialed down the alcohol, we've never had a blowout before.
Yeah, it's been a major change. That's one of the reasons I obviously I feel different because I don't drink, but the amount of days that I haven't had any alcohol, like my body feels so clean.
I know.
And that's one of the reasons I kind of want to just quit smoking weed too. Like, I don't know if it'll be forever. I don't know if the whole drinking thing will be forever.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that just
to be clear-minded.
Yeah, like your body has filtered all that out. And I almost just, there's another level to that without the weed too.
Yeah.
And I want to experience that.
It. Yeah. I think that's what everybody needs to do. Don't feel like you have to quit forever of anything. But don't you kind of want to see what it feel like?
Yeah, what you're like without something.
Yeah.
Or like, who are you like with if you don't have sugar for fucking 2-3 months, right? How will you feel? Nobody, not nobody, but a lot of people just don't. They don't experiment with that. They don't experiment for themselves to see how it's going to affect them. You know?
Yeah, or they don't give it enough time. I think that's what's people's patience levels. They want things like
it's immediate.
They want immediate gratification for things. And that's just not the way it is.
No.
Anything great for you, it doesn't come easy.
Yeah. And I think with the whole alcohol thing, like in the beginning, it was just because I just didn't want to. And now it's like, it's more about I want to not, right? And I want to prolong the feeling. Because in the beginning, I didn't feel that. I was just like, I just don't feel like drinking anymore. No specific reason. But now I'm feeling the effects of it. And it's just like physical fitness. Once you start seeing the results of it, it becomes an addiction, right? And you start feeling different.
Yeah. You fall in love with that feeling.
Yeah. Well, we kind of got off track. We were supposed to talk about what you're going to focus on yourself with, but that's okay.
Oh, inner journey.
Inner journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Inner journey.
Taking care of yourself. Oh, just taking care of yourself.
Taking care of myself, putting myself first. I'm at the point where I'm like, my kids have plenty. It's time to focus on me.
Yeah.
And that's where my mindset went when you were like, should we buy Kellen a new bed? No.
Yeah.
He can have our old bed. Let's get us a new bed. Sure. Let's take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also with raising kids, and I'm home with the kids all the time. And so giving them so much of my energy, it's like, I need to you
got to fill yourself, fill your own cup too.
And,
that's
so
important.
I don't feel burnt out and I don't take my emotional things out on the kids.
Yeah.
So
along with that, is there anything like your routine that's going to change at all?
Yeah, it'll be pretty drastic. I'm not a morning person, so I do love my leisurely mornings, but I'm going to kind of reframe them and with kind of going off coffee for a little while and just going with the mushroom supplement and not psychedelic mushroom supplement, just regular good for you lion's mane,
like a mushroom
reishi.
blend,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I think it's for balance and stress, clarity.
Yeah. Which, hold that thought. When I talk about mushrooms, we talk a lot about psychedelics, but medicinal mushrooms on their own.
Yeah, like lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, chaga.
Yeah, turkey tail.
Turkey tail.
Anything like that.
Yeah.
Like mushrooms as a whole, other than the ones that'll kill you, are amazing for you. Yes. So even if you don't like the whole concept of psychedelics, look into medicinal mushrooms and how they can help you. Like we go forage mushrooms quite a bit and we use what we can. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that because that's
good to clarify it.
Yeah, that's good too. So like I like to put reishi and there's another one, chaga in my coffee quite a bit. So you're going to start doing just a mushroom blend, no coffee.
No coffee with cacao. So the cacao is basically like chocolate at its rawest form. And it's ceremonial grade. So it's supposed to kind of open up your heart chakra. So I'm going to start every single morning with this new meditation, mind control meditation that I'm learning to do. And then that'll be before I even get out of bed to have my morning coffee. Because I still want that warm, comforting beverage in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to see how I am without the caffeine fog.
Right. 100%.
It'll take a little while. I'm very much prepared for
headaches.
Yep, headaches and stuff like that. But I think it's really perfect for gearing up to my 4-day fast that I'm going to be doing in January. To kind of like dial that down because I'll be in a very I won't be doing a whole lot. I won't put a lot on my plate, so that way I can just basically lay around, meditate, and not focus on wanting to eat the house and
I think morning routines are everybody should have a morning routine.
Yeah.
I think they're amazing.
Yeah, I swear there's a famous quote that says the way you organize the first couple hours of your morning dictates your whole day
100%.
Or something like that.
Yeah. If it's not a quote, somebody needs to make a quote.
Yeah. Because if you really think about it, if you just roll out of bed, you don't make the bed, you're just stumbling around, your whole day is going to kind of feel chaotic. But if you ground yourself,
set intentions and be intentional with your morning,
make your bed,
yes,
and things like that, your whole day is going to be on a whole different level.
I notice that a lot. There's sometimes I have to go to work early. Well, I have to leave the house at 4:30, 5 o'clock, right? Yeah. Some people that's not early, I get it. But those are my days where I'm forced to wake up at 3 o'clock, or I don't, and I just wake up for enough time to do things. And most of the time, I don't like to sacrifice my sleep. So I'll just wake up when I absolutely need to, get the basic stuff done, and head out the door. Yeah. And those days, I notice it.
It's a drastic difference.
Yeah, it's not like it's a bad day. It's not like anything happened. But the way that my day has started is the way that my day is going to end. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So then I noticed that the days that I sit down and I write my gratitude and I write my manifestations and actually sit and have that time to organize my thoughts before the day starts, those are the best days that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was doing cold plunge in the morning, that was it raised it even more. I felt so good throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because the more you can do to benefit yourself in the morning, the better your day's going to be.
Yeah. 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 And when you're setting those goals, I just want to say, don't bombard yourself with so much change. That was one thing I learned.
That'll kill you.
It'll
kill everything that you have.
Yeah. You don't have to become change who you are in a day. Meditation is just a big thing. I want to learn how to meditate. I want to learn how to get into that alpha theta state where I can, access different things that I see other people accessing. And I'm okay, well, if they can do it, I know I can do it, but I have to actually take the steps to learn it. Right.
Right.
So that's a big thing. And so those are basically the two things I'm only going to focus on is making my warm, fuzzy drink and meditation.
Yeah.
So that'll be my first 30 minutes of my day, depending on whatever time that is that I wake up.
Yeah. I think that's important because You think that's one thing with the new year. Everybody's like, do this, and this, and it's a fucking list of everything. And then you get halfway through that list in the first week and you're like, what the fuck am I doing to myself? Yeah. You just run yourself into the ground. Yep. It's the same thing with fitness. You can't just go balls to the wall. Like if you're brand new, you can't just go balls to the wall and expect to last. Yeah. Right? There's a thing called progressive overload for a reason. Yeah. And you have to start with the basics. Start with what's most important. Get the foundation. And then move and add things on as you go, because otherwise you're not gonna do it. You're gonna fail.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that silly child's book, The Tortoise and the Hare. I mean, everybody should go back and reread that childhood book because who wins? The turtle. Yeah, it's slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, like 100%.
Don't overload yourself. If you're want to shed some weight and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. There's so many different things. It's like, okay, shut it all out and really tune into what your body is needing. Do you feel like your body needs to cut out sugar and dairy? Then cut out that and still kind of maintain what you're doing. Right. Incorporate some movement, get your body moving, but you don't have to do it all at the same time. You don't need to like do a drastic diet and then also be going to the gym for 2 hours a day. Like that is overload. Like pick one to start, like get your body moving and then incorporate new eating styles and then slowly add more and more in. I think you're going to have a way better results. Yeah. And you won't be overwhelmed and then burnt out.
Yeah. And if you go 100%, there's nowhere to go from there. Right. Yeah. It's like with dieting, you kind of just said it. It's like when you want to lose weight, you don't just say, oh, I can't eat anything. I just got to eat vegetables. No, you start at a base and then you slowly work your way down. Yep. And your body becomes, what's that word? What? Your body slowly gets used to it.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So we were trying to think of this word the other day. I can't think of it again. But your body slowly gets used to it and it actually makes it easier because it's slow but progressive. Yeah. You know, and I think that's important. Acclimates. There you go.
I was like immaculate.
No, that's what we thought it was.
Yeah, your body acclimates.
Yeah. So I think that's important. Slow and steady wins the race.
I mean, I felt just like, for instance, and I mean, obviously I got sick 2 weeks into it, so I just kind of stopped, but I wanted to get back into the gym. I want to move my body. And part of me was like thinking about my old self and how much I was going to the gym. Like we lived there. Yeah. It seemed like for a chunk of time in our lives, and realizing that I'm not that same girl anymore, but I do still love to move my body. I, want to look a certain way. I want to feel a certain way. And I know that I have to move my body in order to do that. And so I was like, okay, as silly as it sounds, I'm making a goal for myself to go to the gym 1 day a week.
There you go.
That's it. That's so small.
But it's more than not going.
Exactly. Right? So if you're at a place where you're like, it hurts to move my body, you're just not in the routine of going to the gym, like just start as small as you can, but start.
Yeah. And here's a big, like, I still live at the gym. I feel like
you have actually been so consistent.
I've been so consistent and I feel so good. And I'm so proud of that.
Yeah.
But if I could say, just being in my position in fitness and training and stuff like that, if anybody does want to go towards that, find somebody else that's in your same position to go with, because I'm sure you've experienced it. I'm sure Kellen's experienced it because he's going to the gym with me now. But when you go to the gym with somebody like me, that's very intense, that has a program and a routine and does that and sticks to it to a T, you're going to have a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to discourage you.
Yeah.
So it's important to find somebody that's closer to where you're at, or go by yourself so you can go at your own pace, because you going with me is not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Because we're going to do what I need to do rather than what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So just for anybody that's getting on that bandwagon for the new year, if you are, that's fantastic. That's my word of advice. Either that or find a trainer, because they're there for you. They're not there for their workout.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Or start most gyms these days. Most like you know, big gyms, they have like Zumba rooms and like classes that you can do. And I think that's
100%.
I want to start doing that.
Yeah.
You know, because you're still getting your body moving and it's just in a different way.
And there's people of all levels. Like, not to sound like a creep, but I love watching these people because some of them are in there and they're hitting it like they're in a music video. Like, it's perfect.
And then there's ones that are barely.
And then you get the old dude in the back that's just like, just doing this the whole time.
Yeah, but he's just, but he's vibrant and loving it. And that's the kind of group things I want to start doing. So that's another big part of it is I want to do like, there's groups that do like somatic breathing and like somatic dance and like things like that in more of a group setting. And I want to really dive into like more community group things.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Well, good. So something you want to, alongside everything that you've already talked about, everything that's growing, everything you're doing, is there something for you specifically that you want to accomplish? Like when I say specifically, I don't mean like grow a business or, you know, have more friends. I mean like something that's measurable and attainable, like something specific. Do you have anything in mind for whether it's the calendar new year or the new year from April to April? Do you have anything in mind that you want to accomplish for yourself personally?
I think my biggest thing that I really want to do is however it manifests, I don't want my sole income, the bulk of my income, to come from hair. And so that's a big, obviously you've known that it's dwindled. It's become just more of a, not really even a business anymore. It's just more of like a hobby. I know how to do it well. And I get paid for it. And I have the most amazing clientele that has followed me. So I love those people.
Yeah.
But I just don't want it to be where I'm like, I don't want to be stressing about like when my next haircut client is to be able to buy groceries. You know, I want something more.
It's like more financially stable.
More financially stable. Yeah.
And something other than hair.
And something other than hair. I'll probably never stop doing hair for a few select people. Because
they're your friends too. They're not just your clients. You can tell.
Friends.
Like these people walk through our house.
Right. So there's just certain people that I will never, you know, probably not do that. But I think I'll want it in like a setting where it's not at my home.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good goal to have.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in 2024 that you want to experience?
I don't know.
It doesn't even have to be major, like any profound thing. Is there anything, like for me, one of my goals that I wrote down is a hot air balloon.
Oh.
Since 2009, 2010, I wanted to be in a hot air balloon somehow. So that's one of my, so I've written down, I think what it is 4, and 4. So I have...
Those numbers follow me.
I have 2 categories of personal goals. One internal, one external. One of my external is to be in a hot air balloon.
That's really cool.
And then I have 4 financial goals that I want to accomplish.
So you have internal, external, and financial?
Financial, 4 of each.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So like I said, one of my external personal goals is to be in a hot air balloon. And that's one thing I want to experience. And another was, you know, do another Tough Mudder. Yeah. So I love it. And that experience, out of experiences, that was at the top of the list for 2023. That was the most...
That was really cool to
amazing
witness.
Thing I've ever experienced in my life. It was so hard. It was so much work, but it was so fun.
Yep. And I probably won't do it with you this next year.
That's fine.
Only because it's not a
you thing.
You know, you are such a like fitness guru and you love to test yourself physically. Right. That is so you. And so for you to have accomplished that, I mean, it just showed on your face. Like you go back and watch some of your videos that I took of that moment and pictures, like you look radiant.
I was like in my element doing everything that I wanted to do. Just fucking covered in mud. My legs hurt, but it was the best. I felt so good.
Felt so great.
Yeah.
I think skydiving.
Skydiving?
Ever since Angie did hers, I want to. Like,
I think you'll be on that one by yourself too.
Yes. And I think I'm at this place where I know that fear is the lowest vibration. So I'm going to tackle everything head on that I feel fearful of. That's a big mission to me. That's how I feel. Like, I hear all these things like, oh, you got to raise your vibration. You got to raise your vibration. And sometimes I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to raise my vibration?
Yeah.
And so then I had this thought. I was like, if I can tackle everything that I if I feel fearful of, that's raising my vibration.
Yeah.
Because I am pushing through it, and then I won't be fearful anymore.
Right. Fear is only there if you fear it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. And
it's easier said than done, 100%.
Totally.
But you're only scared of something if you fear it. Like, quit fearing things. Like, are you afraid of the dark? Sit in a fucking dark room. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Right? Fear is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skydiving.
Yeah. Skydiving. And I'm telling you, like, I probably at some point this year, I will be in a dark room for 5 to 7 days. That's another one.
Yeah. So what is that called? I forget what it's called, like dark therapy or something like that.
Yeah. And a lot of people will probably think that I am freaking weird for saying that. Like, because who wants that, right? But when you think about it, so like my perspective is I am around a 4-year-old who is talking nonstop, music playing, toys going, like, it's so overwhelming some
internal
days.
noise, external noise.
External noise, right. All of it, right? Just life in general is just, it's a lot some days. And so if you think about what you as like physically and emotionally would go through if you couldn't see, couldn't hear anything outside of just your little room. And what's the other one? Is it just darkness and then no sound?
Just darkness, no sound, nothing.
So you don't have your phone to just mindlessly look at stuff. You don't have TV to mindlessly look at stuff. You are face to face with yourself. Right.
And just so, like, not everybody may know what that is. Like, we're not talking about just shutting your door in your bedroom. Like, all light, 100% is sealed. The door is sealed. The window is sealed. It's soundproof. It's 100% darkness. And at that point, you start seeing visuals too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you go basically face to face with your own inner demons. You're basically going into your level of hell. You're face to face with it. And then, I mean, who did we watch? Aubrey Marcus?
Aubrey Marcus did it. There's been a couple people that I watched that did the same exact room.
But he was the one that you showed me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, you hear him crying because you're just, whatever he was faced with brought him into that emotional state, and he just let it out. And I think that would be really cool to experience yourself at your core without any external anything.
That's the biggest thing. Like, sometimes I forget about the things that you see, but that's also what you consume, right? So like movies, television, stuff like that. And to just completely silence everything. Like, that's what I love about my mornings. It's fucking quiet, but I'm still like seeing things, right? I'm still like looking at things and they're raising thoughts and questions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you would just completely shut that out, like how like centered you can be, because there's nothing, it's just you at that point. Just 100% you.
And I think a lot of people are afraid to be by themselves
with their own thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I'm at a place where I wouldn't be so, like, if I were to have done it last year or even earlier this year, I think it would have been a lot harder. But when I went and experienced that energy nap, it was the coolest thing. And I was just so at peace laying on a bed with an eye mask in this room full of energy frequencies. Yeah. And for 2 hours, I just laid there in peace. With no interruptions, nobody calling me, nobody texting me, like emails coming through, no interruptions. Yeah. Just my thoughts. Just being.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I wouldn't mind doing that too.
Yeah, it was just really cool. And so more of those things where I can drown out the outside noise, so you can really know who you are and what you desire.
Yeah.
I think it's important, instead of being like, oh, well, this person looks cool wearing this, so I think I need that too. Well, do you really need it? No, you just want it because somebody else looked good wearing it.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's where I want to be. I just really want to like know myself.
Yeah.
Through and through. So that way nothing else outside affects me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of that, we talked about this, a lot of that comes from social media. Mm-hmm. Right. It's one thing to be like social with the people that you know and meeting new people and networking and stuff like that. But the amount of advertisements that are directly related to what you're interested in mm-hmm. is absurd. It's sickening to me, right?
Consumerism is pretty awful.
Yeah, and wall. It's like, since I've drawn back from it so much, it's easier to be like I still watch YouTube, I still watch TV, stuff like that. But I'm so aware of the things being shoved in your face. Like, buy this, buy this, buy this. We see the same commercials all the time, same ads. Boom, boom, boom. Yep. Look at this. And it's like, why don't you just let me decide what I want? Quit deciding what the fuck I want just because I was interested in one thing mm-hmm. one time.
Yeah.
And that bothers me so much. So that's been nice for me too, is being so withdrawn from social media. One thing I have noticed is, like, even though I'm not like personal great friends with these, like, a lot of people, like my friends, followers, whatever, mm-hmm. It's still nice to like have those interactions with people. Yeah. And I do miss that from social media. Mm-hmm. Even though they're not super personal, they're not like connected, you know? Yeah. But I do miss that. But it's so hard for me to get back on, because then you just see advertisement. It's like, then it's just changing who you are at your core. That's not who you are. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I can see that. Just withdrawing from all of the noise for a week. I think that's how long you do it. 5 days, 4 or 5 days, something like that.
I think it's like 5 full days in the darkness, but then they have to like literally like crack open some light. So
and slowly take the blindfold off too when you're out.
Yeah, because your eyes.
Yeah. I've heard when you come out of that too, you just see everything different too.
Yeah. See, I think that I just want to experience things for myself. You know, you can watch as many gurus speak about everything, mm-hmm. but until you actually put them in practice and experience it for yourself, then that's what I want. And that's where I love, I don't know who the quote is, but they say like, you can gather all the knowledge that you want, mm-hmm. but until you actually put it into practice, it'll never become wisdom.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
So you can be knowledgeable about something, mm-hmm. but wisdom comes from experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I want to have the wisdom. Yeah. And that's what I think since we've started doing mushrooms, when was it 2021? I think 2021, March of 2021 was the first, well, no, I'm not counting that experience, but that was New Year's.
The big one we had here. Yeah.
That was December 31st, 2020.
Yeah.
That went into 1st of 2021. Yeah. But that's like, nobody can take that away from me. I mean, my own family looks me in the eye and thinks I'm crazy for what mm-hmm. I talk about. But it doesn't even faze me now, because I have the wisdom. I experienced it.
Right.
So until they experience it for themselves, I don't care what they have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't know.
Yeah, you have to kind of take somebody's word for it, but at the same time, you have to experience things for yourself. You just have to.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of, is actually just putting the things that all the knowledge that I gained in 2023 mm-hmm. and kind of putting it into action.
Yeah.
And experiencing it in 2024 is a good way to kind of describe what I want for 2024.
100%. It's kind of like a mushroom trip. You take all of the knowledge that you get from it,
and let it integrate.
Yeah, because a lot of it is, you have to hold on to it and you have to be with it for a while, and then you have to slowly peck away at it, right?
Yeah.
And you have to work on it, and then you do it again. It's just, I think that's why everybody's start new year, you have your goals, you work through them, and then, you have to make new goals. You have to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad thing. As long as you're not making the same goals because you didn't finish them the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, that's important. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Pretty much covered everything.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No? I don't think so either. I think this has been a good year. It's been very enlightening. I think it's been good for the kids.
Yeah.
I think it's been good for a lot of people. I think it's been a kind of a whirlwind year for a lot of people. But I feel like there's a lot of people that are taking good from that too, though.
I think so. Yeah. Numerologically, 2023 was a 7-year, which is all about learning the lessons.
Is that because 2023 adds up 7?
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, the 7 is all about like learning the lessons and like trusting that what you're experiencing is for your highest good. And then going into 2024 is an 8-year, which is all about abundance and things like that. So not necessarily like financial abundance, but abundance in love, abundance in joy, abundance in all the things, right? So I think a lot of people can be excited for 2024 just because as a collective, it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, I think so too. Abundance is one of those things I've really been trying to focus on. Like you said, not financial, but just understanding what I really have. You know, you get so caught up in more, right? And this is one of those years where I think I've even said this on a previous podcast, like, why? For what? You know what I mean? And I use my truck as an example. It's like, I always wanted it because it was like a status thing. Like, I've always wanted a big black truck. Now I have it. I'm like, this fucking doesn't.
I hate this payment.
Yeah, like I wish I would have just got like a truck that I paid off, right? 100%. And I just have a vehicle to drive around. Yeah. And it's like, I don't need I have so much that I don't need anymore. I just need to use what I have and be happy with what I have, right? So there can still be goals, personal goals, but I don't think there's any more materialistic goals. I don't think one thing that I've thought about for like the new year, ever since I've been thinking about goals and progressing and stuff like that, none of that has been material at all. Yeah. Not one thing. No. Whereas before it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to save up this amount of money to get this one thing this year, right? It's not even close. Not even about right? That, yeah. Do I have financial goals? Yeah, but that's more about putting stuff away for a rainy day to do experiences, like to have experiences and to do things and build family memories.
Yep.
I don't fucking need anything else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's kind of like what we did with the kids more so with this year. Less things, more finances to do experiences.
Right. Which I think would be good. It's a hard thing for like the kids to grasp at the moment. But when I explained it, they were like, oh, way more sense, right? Now we get to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because somebody gifted us money to go do it rather than having a remote control car that's going to sit for 9 out of the 12 months of this year. And then we're going to throw it away next year.
Yep.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you
for
being on here. This is a good podcast.
Fun.
We need to do more of these together. I think we have really good conversations. We have these conversations quite often. They're just never recorded.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we'll sit in bed for an hour, 2 hours and just talk about random shit like this.
Yeah. Those are like my favorite.
And we're like, man, we should have just had the microphones on.
Yeah.
You know?
That's kind of where Mindfully Blissed podcast came about because we were just sitting in the hot tub talking about everything and we were looking at each other. We're like, this should have been recorded. This would have been an awesome
hot
podcast.
Tub podcast. Fuck yeah.
And so then we're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Mindfully Blissed with Jess and Staci.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for that too. Yeah. Anybody that's interested in that, I will link your YouTube and your Instagram. Anywhere else?
Spotify.
Yeah. YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. I'll link all those so you guys can check her out. You don't know when episode 2 of your podcast is going to be released.
Nope, but it's being recorded on Tuesday.
Okay. So sometime close after that?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to her. Reach out to me. In the meantime, Happy New Year. Be safe.
Happy New Year.
This is, if you've done something dumb for New Year's, it's already over because I'm going to publish this way later. So I hope you didn't get in any trouble. Happy New Year. I love you all. We'll see you next time.
So much love.